that if the Fed were to wait, then they risk a recession. Do you believe that to be the case?
Look, I think risks are definitely starting to shift in that direction. I think the Fed's been acknowledging it in the course of the past couple of months, is that we've been focused on inflation exclusively over the course of the past 2 years. It has been an appropriate focus, and now we're starting to see some downside risks to employment, and we should be acting on them at some point in the fall.
How do you feel about this dynamic, Erik? If you have rates stay higher, at least until September, when the market is really expecting the Fed to cut, what else starts to weaken?
Well, I think, Sonali, if you look at market pricing, we're already there for a September cut, right? So very literally, if they sort of have to wait until September, technically the market won't necessarily move if they just cut 25 basis points in September. It's kind of a semantic point, but the market's already done some of the easing work for the Fed here. And I think in terms of sort of the U.S. economy and where we're currently sit, our labor market has certainly softened, but it's not at a point yet where I'm really worried about it, right? Like looking at the low level of layoffs. Yes, hiring is certainly weak. There's been some weakness in the underlying rising unemployment rate, but cyclical jobs are still okay. The GDP report showed that a lot of the cyclical parts of the economy are still growing, right? Equipment investment, durable goods spending. So I don't see this as an economy that's about to fall off a cliff if we don't get a cut next week.
Well, let me ask you another thing about the market's expectations, because if the economy, Erik, is still so strong, can you achieve 2 rate cuts in this market?
I think you can. I think that the Fed thinks it's pretty far above neutral, right? So they would make the argument, I suspect, that if inflation stays around these levels and they only cut twice, they're still pretty far above neutral, and they're still in restrictive territory, and they're still putting some downward pressure on inflation, at least in their framework. So can you get two rate cuts? Absolutely. I think the bigger question for the market is can you get 6 or even more than that? And that's what really is sort of hanging the balance.